All right, how's everyone doing? My name's James. I go by JSR, and I just wanted to make a video showcasing my stream setup and my collection. A lot of people have asked to see my collection during my streams, and also have asked to see my setup to see how everything is set up and how everything connects and all that stuff. I've made a connection and set up a stream setup video in the past, but this is going to be a lot more thorough. It's going to show everything in my collection. So I'll get started with the collection first. So this is just a little spot that I keep some of my stuff in my collection. Nothing out of the ordinary or anything over here. Just some cool stuff that needed its own area. These are just my Virtual Boy games, just a special t-shirt that I never opened. All of my 3DS and Nintendo DS games, nothing special here. Most of it's shovelware, but I do have some good titles. And then underneath this, we have a case here. And this is my Game Boy Advance collection, which is pretty neat. I got this Zelda SP from Europe, and then all my games, nothing crazy, all my Zelda games, Pokemon games, Metroid, stuff like that. But the real lovely part of this is in here. This is just a regular unmodded Game Boy Advance, nothing special. But this, I don't have any batteries in it right now, is my baby. This is a backlit Game Boy Advance with a glass screen. It's been modded. It's got an amazing screen on it. It's even better than the Game Boy Advance SP's screen. This is my baby. This is awesome. So that's my Game Boy Advance. And below that, the newest addition to my collection, my Sega Master System games, donated to me by JustAman114 of Team Lil Z. Just added to my collection. Then I've got some e-reader cards. I think my e-reader's back there somewhere. It's back there somewhere. It's a piece of shit. So what I did is I recreated all of my childhood collections. I owned this model Game Boy. This is not my childhood Game Boy, but this is the same model I owned. The Play It Loud clear one. And it came in this clear case, which is pretty neat. And then all the games that I kept in this case when I was a kid. Both my Pokemon games, that game. Actually, I don't even know if I had that as a kid. I think it's just in there. And then these games. I think I used to keep Donkey Kong Land in there, but just something I wanted because I had this as a kid. Got that for my, I want to say 11th birthday. This is just a Game Boy Color. Nothing crazy. But we got some more games in there. My Game Boy Color. Pretty cool. And then finally, this is the other part of my childhood collection that I was really keen on getting back together. I had the same case as a kid. I got this for my, I want to say 6th birthday. Hold on, I'm going to pause the video. Yeah, so I got this case for my 6th birthday, but this is not my childhood Game Boy. It is the case. You'll see that the case is quite old. So it always leaves behind little black residue on everything. It just washes right off. But there's nothing I can do about it. So I just gave up on it. Every time I bust any of this stuff out, I have to clean it, which is kind of a pain in the ass. But it's an old school black and white Game Boy with all my Game Boy games that I had as a kid. And pretty neat. I just like having all this together because this is what I had as a kid. So it's pretty neat to have it again in the same case that once held that stuff when I was a kid, so it's pretty neat. And just real quick, I've got my Breath of the Wild case, some Wiimotes with rechargeable batteries, my new Nintendo 3DS, and my Majora's Mask 3DS. So that's it for this area. Now let's move on to the games shelves. I lied. One more piece that people don't usually see. There used to be a lot more on this shelf, but now a lot of that stuff's behind when I stream, and then you might recognize that got moved. But just the 2 Hyrule Warriors Special Edition hardcover books, a sealed Zelda cartoon DVD, Skyward Sword statue, and a Zelda lenticular, which is pretty badass. I don't know if you can see it on camera. Probably not. But it's 3D. It's pretty neat. So, anyways, now to the game shelves. Nope, I lied. Couple more things. That is the certificate of authenticity that came with the Prima Guides collection. This is the Twilight Princess cloth map, and then finally the Breath of the Wild cloth map, and then finally my Master Sword, which is badass. I love my Master Sword. Alright, now to the game shelves. Okay, so this area might look familiar to all of you guys that watch my streams. This is the area that I set up to kind of be my backdrop for my streams. A lot of this you probably can't see on camera because my webcam is kind of piece of shit, but I've got all this set up, and then I've got this game shelf set up. We'll start with this guy because this is not what you see on camera. I've got my Complete Unbox Super Famicom and my Complete Unbox Family Computer. And this is just a display shelf with some stuff, some amiibos, some props that were handmade. There's my Golden Ocarina that I couldn't find the other day. A 1980s vintage Gleeok Zelda toy, which is pretty cool. My two Good Smile toys. This is a Triforce Heroes, a Hyrule Warriors clock that came in the Hyrule Warriors box set. My Majora's Mask. Skull Kid, Amiibo, Link Between Worlds treasure chest, just a handmade boss key, Twilight Princess Amiibo, Ganondorf statue from Wind Waker HD, a remake of a 1980s toy that was on ThinkGeek. Focus. There you go. Golden Ocarina and Good Smile. Then you've got the NES Classic Edition. Super NES will hopefully be joining that soon. Pip-Boy Edition, PS4 games and Nintendo Switch games, PS3 games, and then PS2 games, and then finally down at the bottom, we've got PS1 games. And then my little piece of shit Sega at games. That thing's a piece of garbage. Alright, so over here, we'll go to this shelf, which you guys will never see on camera, but I figured I'd show it off. All of the Legend of Zelda hardcore guides that I've ever found. I think this is every one. Special Edition, or Breath of the Wild guide, Hyrule Historia, Art and Artifacts, and then all of the Prima guides. I think I've got every one. And then at the end, you got the Fallout Vault Dweller guide, which is hardcover. I think I've got all of them. The only one that's actually kind of rare is this one. This is the Link Between Worlds one. I actually bought it sealed, but I don't keep anything sealed with the exception of this, because I have two guides. I wanted to read the guide, so I bought it and I tore it open because that's what it's supposed to be. This I only opened because I have two of this guide. Here's the other one. So I opened this one. That one I didn't need to open. There's only one thing inside of it that's not in this, so I was like, I'll leave it sealed. Anyways, Sega Genesis games. I don't have very many of those. Those are the only ones I have in cases. I have some loose ones as well, and then a random CDI game. And then just Sega CD and long box PlayStation. Couple game magazines. This is my 1988 vintage Nintendo Power from my childhood. It's beat to shit, but it is one of my surviving childhood things. Then just some random anime books, mostly Dragon Ball Z. Alright, NES games. I do have a couple reproductions. Bonk's Adventures are repro, and Little Samson is a repro, and then obviously like Earthbound, Final Fantasy 2 and 3, Goonies, those are all repros. But for the most part, these are all real carts. All the real Mega Mans, RC Pro-Am 2, a couple. That's about it. I don't have a lot of rare games or anything. I got my Honeybee adapter, my Power Pack, and then down here is where the Nintendo games end, and we get Famicom games. They're not really in any order. They're just kind of there. Super NES games, unfortunately, you can't really see the labels, but I do have a couple gems. I've got Earthbound. That's a real cart. Where is it? Chrono Trigger. And a couple other nice ones. Kirby's Dream Land 3 and Couple more. Gold Wiimote with gold Club Nintendo nunchuck, which is pretty cool. It's a relatively rare nunchuck. That's a pretty badass thing that not very many people have. And then Wii games. Wii games start down here. And then they wrap around to this shelf, where they are joined up by Wii U games. So we'll go from the bottom on this shelf. There's the Breath of the Wild coin. Loose Sega Genesis. It's really hard to see because it's black, but these are all just Sega Genesis games and N64 games with my FDS stick. FDS games. Come on, focus. The lighting in my living room is not very good. 64DD. Doshin the Giant 1. F-Zero Expansion Kit. Mario Artist. I think this is the Communication Kit. Oh, it's Talent Studio. And then this is Paint Studio. The Ranad disc and SimCity 64. Super Famicom games with a Super Famicom to any Super Nintendo adapter if I want to play on the Super Famicom, and then a NES to Famicom adapter. CDI games. This is not all of my CDI games. Missing 3 in particular. I'll come back to that in a minute. Super Nintendo Game Genie, Japanese Super Game Boy, and then American Super Game Boy, the GoldenEye Wii controller, and then Dreamcast. Shenmue 2 is not the real Shenmue 2. That is a reproduction. Everything else is legit. Xbox 360, not very much there. I actually don't even own a Microsoft console. And then GameCube. It's kind of hard to see it. The lighting, again, is not very good. And then GameCube. And finally, we go up to here. Got my Zelda. Focus. Thank you. Zelda Amiibos. Breath of the Wild soundtracks. That's the European one sealed. That's the American one unsealed. And then the Twilight Princess one. My Skyward Sword Figma, which is badass. I love it. A couple random things. The Deku Shield. I love that thing. I added it just so you could see it on stream. It's not a official replica or anything. It was bought off eBay. And then my Linkle clock, which came with Hyrule Warriors. My Triforce light from ThinkGeek, Power Glove, Zelda Game & Watch, and a Twilight Princess statue. Zelda 2 Perler, and that bookmark is from, I want to say it was E3. It was from a convention. It's made by the same people who make the comics, the Zelda comics. It's a bookmark. And the other side says, I think it's Dark Horse. I'm not sure, but it's relatively rare. It's just taped on the wall. And then my Hylian Shield. A couple more Perlers and Amiibos. My Breath of the Wild lenticular, which you can, again, it's kind of hard to see on camera, but it's 3D. A couple more Perlers. That was sent to me by Only Level 1, which is badass. It's freaking cool. A couple little masks. Speaking of masks, that's not official either. That's a replica, but it's badass. And then limited edition Breath of the Wild poster framed. Limited edition Breath of the Wild poster framed. A couple more Perlers. My Zelda calendar. And then a couple more Perlers. Finally, we've got this shelf. Those little figures are the Tomy, I think they're called Gachipon. They're the little capsule toys. And I got all 6 of those. That is my family computer AV modded and a working FDS. And a working Rob, although I don't have all the accessories that go with it. And it's not working very good. It doesn't work like it probably should, but it does operate. And then a Virtual Boy. Blank Zelda journal, just a collectible journal. My green J-Cart. That chest came with Hyrule Warriors, the box set, and then the Tips and Tactics book, which is pretty awesome. I love that thing. The big chest is the Prima Guide treasure chest that it comes with. It comes in that big box, and then just a couple more things. That tin is what that journal came in, just a collectible tin I got for my birthday last year. The big statue is the Master Sword statue from the Master Edition of Breath of the Wild. Then you got the Zelda 2 box, a couple more Amiibos, and my Zelda Wii U gamepad. And that is what you guys see when I'm streaming, just with a much better camera this time. So that's what you're supposed to see. Unfortunately, it doesn't look quite that good, but that's my setup. A couple more back there. Those little perlers are hiding. You can't really see them on stream, which kind of sucks. Probably just because I need better lighting. Alright, so one last thing before I show you the actual stream setup, just around my house, I got a couple more Fallout posters, and then, that is a humongous Zelda art thing that I got. It is all characters and art from The Legend of Zelda done in a realistic style. It's fucking amazing. I love this thing. And it's big. It's like, I want to say it's like 10 feet tall. All the way at the top, you get Link, Ganon, Zelda, and the Sages. Which is kind of hard to see on camera. But it's badass. Because this is not a small ceiling. That's my refrigerator. That's taller than me. Yeah. That thing's big. Alright, and then lastly, before I move on, I had to show these guys. They're never going to come out of that case. They're actually glued into the back of that case. My friend asked me why I glued them in. And I said, well, because... oh, by the way, original Nintendo Power poster. I was like, because the back of the case is just a basic jewel case. I can always trade it out for another one. I mean, it's literally... There's no way to tell the difference. It's just a piece of plastic. The fronts are mint. So that's all I care about. The disc, the manuals, and all that stuff. So, anyways, one last stop. And here is what I see from my point of view. We've got the stream setup and monitor setup as we're watching Cantaloupe me run Zelda 1. And he's in green. Wow, he's in green in level 4. Look at that. Hopefully this turns into something. So when I'm sitting here, I can look over at this monitor and see, you know, a bunch of different things. Which is actually just a big 4K TV. And then HDMI modded NES and surround sound, Nintendo Switch, Wii U, and PS4, and then just a bunch of random DVDs. And then I've got accessories for the modern consoles, Wii U, Switch, and PS4. With this cool little box. This thing's just a little box of trinkets that I got on where the hell did I get that? Etsy or something? I don't remember. It might have been AliExpress. I don't remember. Nothing important over here. This is just where I keep a lot of my controllers and guns and accessories. Just random accessories. This one down here, a couple Sega Master System things, and all my Atari games. You can't really see it, but all my Atari games are down there. And then finally, NES Advantage and just a boxed thing for the Triforce Lite that I just put up because it looks cool, and then a couple more figures. This is this Nintendo Satellaview with the BSX cartridge, which is a relatively rare add-on that was released in Japan only and would allow you to download games. Then I got Kira Kira Nightstar DX, which is a new Famicom game that came out last year. Complete a box of Yoshi's Island for the Super Famicom. Mario Paint Mouse and Pad, that's the American one. And then Zelda 2 Nintendo Power, and Zelda 2 Nintendo Fun Club, a Star Fox 2 reproduction, and Tails. Just kicking it there. Super Scope, Zelda Golden bookmark just taped to the top of my entertainment center, and then just all my boxes for stuff. Some of that has stuff in it, like the Power Pad and the Pip-Boy. Most of that's just empty boxes. But they look cool. It was better than leaving that just blank. It looked better with stuff on there. And then we've got the 64DD. This is even rarer than the Satellaview. This is a disk drive add-on for the Nintendo 64. That's the games that I showed you earlier. To the right, you've got the Japanese F-Zero. To the left, you've got Mario no Photopi, which is a relatively rare N64 game from Japan. And then you've got my big box Earthbound, my box for Chrono Trigger, and Legend of Zelda Link to the Past Player's Guide from childhood. Those three things back there are all from my childhood. That is not. And then finally, it's kind of hard to see, but that's a lithograph that came with Link Between Worlds Player's Guide, I believe. Alright, so we're getting close to the end. There's my PC. It looks like crap because it Well, it kind of is, but it's got some specs you can see on my Twitch page. But she's got some guts under the hood. She just doesn't act right all the time. And there's my second monitor that I can read chat and see my timer from my captain's chair, which I'll show you in a minute. There's my N64 RGB modded, Super NES one chip model RGB modded, Sega Master System and Philips CDI. And over here in this case, I've got my GameCube with the Japanese Game Boy player. They work on the US version. Currently hooked up so I can practice on this TV through composite because I don't have the component cables. So I can practice Link's Awakening. Nintendo Wii and Sega Dreamcast. Sony PlayStation 1, PS2, and then finally Sega Genesis, Sega CD, and it's hard to see, but back there's a 32X. Finally, I'll sit in my captain's chair. I've got my my Sharp Twin Family with the Gimmick Repro in it, and my Top Loader NES2. Both of these are RGB modded. And I'll show you where those go. There's my controller. Just some random stuff. I put like my stuff up here when I'm streaming and stuff. That's my pedal. That's my foot pedal for splits. I love that thing. It's a dictaphone USB pedal. That thing's amazing. And it's a year old, still working like a charm. This is my CRT that I play on. It's a Sony Wega Trinitron 46-inch model. Or 36-inch. 36-inch, I'm sorry. This is running component. I don't know if you can see it really well. Maybe if I start the game. But that is component converted from RGB. And man, like, I'll show you a comparison of this compared to composite at the end. But look at them pixels, boy. That is as close to RGB quality as you're ever going to get on a TV this big. I mean, really good quality. Those cables are a mess, but that's because this thing weighs about 300 pounds, and I can't move it very easily, so I just leave it. And so I have to fish all this stuff back, so I can't really dress it or anything, but it's all organized. But all of my consoles RGB run to this SCART switch. This is my Shiny Bow 6-to-2 SCART matrix switcher, 6 inputs. This is going to be for the Sega Master System. 2 outputs. This guy runs to this guy. This is for audio to my capture card, and then this to my TV, excuse me. And then this converts the RGB to component, which runs to my television, and also runs to the FrameMeister through the back for consoles that don't sync with the FrameMeister through RGB, like the PS2. My PS1 RGB doesn't work so hot, so I just use the PS2, and that all runs to this component switcher. Focus. Now let's turn on the light. This is a component switcher, so I can, that's a little dusty, so I can switch between PS2, Wii, and the component converter. That runs to my TV and also to the back of the FrameMeister. This guy is an HDMI to composite converter. That way I can tweak the FrameMeister settings on my CRT because I cannot see them without using the capture card, which has like 2 seconds of lag, so I can't actually change settings on there very easily. That allows me to tweak it. That's really the only reason I have this thing. I mean, I bought it for other reasons. It's expensive. That's why I leave it hooked up, though. It gives me a reason to still use it. And then finally, we got El FrameMeister. RGB input through the front, component input through the back. It's got a S-video and stuff. You guys know about the FrameMeister. There's nothing special. That is this cable from the SCART matrix goes to this, and then that outputs to this in HDMI, which then outputs to the computer and also goes to here. That is lots and lots of money. But man, oh man, is that picture quality worth it. You have to see it in person to believe it. The comparison is unreal. In fact, let me show you. All right. This is the same console hooked up, because this is AV modded as well, hooked up through composite. If I switch over to component, it's night and day, man. Night and day. The difference is even more staggering in person. Like, it's hard to tell on camera, but man, you should see it in person. So, yeah, that's my setup. If you have any questions, feel free to ask in the comments below, or come check me out at twitch.tv/JSR2Gamers. My collection isn't anything special. There's definitely better collections in the world, but I'm very happy with it, and I get a lot of questions about it, so I figured I'd show it off, and that way the people who watch my streams can actually see what I've got going on behind the scenes. So, let me know if you have any questions. Hope to see you guys in the stream, and if not, well, have a great day, and thanks for watching. Take care.